Taman Park wiped sweat from his forehead as he finished fixing the mining drill. The metal was hot from the repair work, and his hands were dirty with oil and dust. He had been working on Harmony's Edge mining station for 3 years now. It was not the worst place to work, but it was far from Earth and far from other humans. The station floated in space near a small moon. The moon had good metals that the Vegas needed for their ships and buildings. Vegas were not like humans. They looked like large rabbits that could walk on 2 legs. They had big eyes, soft gray fur, and long ears that moved when they talked. Most aliens in the galaxy thought Vegas were weak because they never fought wars. But Taman knew better. Vegas were smart and kind. They were good at finding metals and building things that lasted a long time. Taman, Taman, 2 small voices called his name. He turned around and smiled. Nix and Zora were running toward him on their short legs. They were vegan cubs about the same age as 6-year-old human children. Their fur was lighter than adult Vegas, and their ears were still growing. They belonged to Kiravel, who was Taman's boss on this part of the station. "What are you 2 doing here?" Taman asked. He put down his tools and knelt down so he could look at them better. "This is a work area. Your mother will be angry if she finds you here." "We wanted to see the big drill," Nick said. His whiskers twitched with excitement. "Docthon said you made it work better than before." "Much better," Zora added. She was the quieter of the 2 cubs, but she always supported her brother. "Can you show us how it works?" Taman looked around. There were no other workers nearby, and the drill was safe now. He had made sure of that. "Okay, but just for a minute, then you have to go back to your mother." He turned on the drill at its lowest setting. The machine hummed and the drill bit turned slowly. The cubs watched with wide eyes. Vegas were curious about everything, especially the cubs. They asked questions about things that adult aliens took for granted. "Why does it turn that way?" Nix asked. "Because that is the best way to cut through rock," Taman explained. "If it turned the other way, it would push the rock instead of cutting it." "Humans are very smart," Zora said. "Mother says humans can fix anything." Taman felt warm inside when she said that. It had taken a long time for the Vegas to trust him. When he first came to the station, they were polite but careful around him. Humans had a bad reputation in some parts of the galaxy. Not bad like some races that started wars, but weird. Other aliens said humans were unpredictable. They said humans did strange things that did not make sense. But Taman had been patient. He did his work well. He helped other workers when they had problems. He learned some of the Vegan language. Slowly, the Vegas began to treat him like family. That meant everything to him. "Your mother is probably looking for you," Taman said. He turned off the drill. "You should go find her before she worries." "Will you tell us a story later?" Nix asked. "A human story?" Taman had started telling the cub stories from Earth. They loved hearing about rain and oceans and animals they had never seen. Vegas came from a dry planet with small seas. The idea of water falling from the sky amazed them. "If your mother says it is okay," Taman said. The cubs ran off, their ears bouncing as they moved. Taman watched them go and felt happy. He had not expected to care so much about alien children when he took this job, but the cubs had become like family to him. All the Vegas had. "They like you very much." The voice belonged to Kiravel. She had walked up quietly while Taman was watching her cubs. Vegas were good at moving without making noise. "They are good cubs," Taman said. "Very smart. They ask good questions." "They ask too many questions," Kiravel said, but she was smiling. "Thank you for being patient with them. It is hard for cubs to grow up on a mining station. There are not many other young ones here." "I do not mind," Taman said. "They remind me that there are good things in the galaxy. Sometimes work makes you forget that." Kiravel nodded. She understood. Working in space was lonely, especially for species like humans and Vegas who liked being around others. "Docthon wants to see you in the main office. He says there is a message for you." Taman cleaned his hands and put away his tools. The main office was in the center of the station. It had the biggest windows and the best view of space. Docthon was there, looking at screens that showed information about the station and the area around it. Ah, Taemin, Dokthon said. He was older than most Vegas on the station, with gray streaks in his fur. You have a message from human space. I think it is your family. Taemin sat down at the communication station. A hologram appeared showing a human woman in a military uniform. She had the same eyes as Taemin and the same shape of face. This was Yulha Kim, his cousin. She worked for the human navy as a communications officer. Hello, Taemin, Yulha said. I hope you are doing well. I wanted to tell you that Mother and Father are proud of the work you are doing. The reports from your station say you have improved mining efficiency by 15%. That is very good. Taemin smiled. His family had worried when he decided to work so far from human space. They thought he might be lonely or that other aliens might not treat him well. I also wanted to warn you about something, Yulha continued. We have reports of raider activity in your sector. Ships attacking small stations and colonies. Most of the attacks have been on trade routes, but some have hit mining operations. Be careful. If you see anything strange, contact us immediately. The message ended. Taemin stared at the empty space where his cousin's hologram had been. Raiders were always a problem in the outer parts of the galaxy. There were races that preferred to steal instead of work or trade. Most of the time they attacked cargo ships or small colonies that could not defend themselves. Is there a problem? Dokthon asked. Maybe, Taemin said. My cousin says there have been raider attacks near here. We should check our defense systems. Dokthon's ears drooped. Vegas did not like violence. Their whole culture was built around avoiding fights and solving problems with words instead of weapons. Our defense systems are very basic. We have shields and some mining lasers that could be used as weapons, but not much else. That might be enough, Taemin said. Most raiders look for easy targets. If they think we can fight back, they will probably go somewhere else. But even as he said it, Taemin felt worried. The Vegas were peaceful people. They would not know how to fight even if they had good weapons. And the Cubs. If raiders came here, what would happen to Nyx and Zora and the other young ones? He pushed the worry away. There were many mining stations in this part of space. The chances that raiders would come to their station were very small. He would check the defense systems and maybe ask Yulha to have human ships patrol nearby. Everything would be fine. Outside the window, space looked calm and empty. Stars shone in the distance and the small moon turned slowly below them. It was peaceful and quiet. Taemin did not know that peace was about to end. The first Kragan boarding ship attached to the station with a loud bang. Taemin felt the vibration through the metal floors. He was hiding in a storage room near the main docking bay, watching through security cameras as armored Kragan soldiers marched into the station. The Vegas had surrendered without fighting, just as they had planned. Dokthon and the other workers stood with their hands raised, their ears flat against their heads in fear. The Kragans pushed them around roughly, checking for weapons and sorting them into groups. War Master Thekmor walked among the prisoners like he owned them already. He was even bigger in person than on the screen. His armor was decorated with marks that showed how many people he had captured and sold. Good specimens, Thekmor said to his soldiers. The soft fur species always sell well. Buyers like pets that do not fight back. Taemin's hands turned into fists as he listened. The Vegas were not pets. They were people with families and dreams and feelings. But to the Kragans, they were just products to sell. Search the station, Thekmor ordered. Find the young ones. I want cubs. They train better when they are small. Scout Captain Veltar saluted. What about the human? Scans show there is one human on this station. Find him too, Thekmor said. Humans are becoming popular in the fighting pits. This one might be worth something if he can survive long enough. Kragan soldiers spread out through the station, their heavy boots making loud sounds on the metal floors. They carried weapons that could kill people quickly or stun them to keep them alive for selling. They moved like they had done this many times before. Taemin watched them through the security system. He counted 15 soldiers plus the War Master and his captain. Too many to fight directly, but maybe not too many to outsmart. The station had many systems that could be dangerous if someone knew how to use them wrong. He moved quietly through the maintenance tunnels that ran behind the walls. As an engineer, he knew every pipe, every wire, every system that kept the station working. The Kragans knew how to fight and how to raid, but they did not know anything about mining station operations. The first thing Taemin did was cut power to the main lights. The station went dark except for emergency lighting. The Kragan soldiers cursed and turned on their helmet lights, but now they could only see a few meters ahead of them. What happened to the lights? Veltar demanded over their communication system. Must be a power failure, one soldier said. These old stations break down all the time. Taemin smiled in the darkness. Let them think it was an accident. The next thing he did was reprogram the atmospheric systems. Instead of clean air, some areas of the station started filling with mining gases that made it hard to breathe. The Kragans had to use their armor's air supply, which would not last forever. From his position in the walls, Taemin could hear soldiers coughing and complaining, but they kept searching for the cubs. They were professionals, and they would not give up easily. Taemin needed to do more than just make them uncomfortable. He needed to make them afraid. He found a group of 3 Kragan soldiers searching the residential area. They were kicking down doors and looking through rooms, getting angry when they found nothing valuable. Taemin waited until they were in a narrow hallway, then activated the fire suppression system. High-pressure water and foam shot out of the walls, knocking the soldiers down and filling the hall with thick white foam. In the confusion, Taemin dropped through a ceiling panel behind them. He grabbed one soldier's weapon and used it to stun the other 2 before they could react. The stunned soldiers would be unconscious for hours. Taemin took their weapons and communication devices, then dragged their bodies into a storage room where no one would find them quickly. Now he had weapons, but more importantly, he had their communication system. He could hear what the other soldiers were saying and where they were going. Team 3, report. Veltar's voice came through the communicator. Taemin waited a moment, then answered in a deep voice that he hoped sounded like a Kragan. Everything. Fine here. Still searching. Good. Continue searching Sector 5. We need to find those cubs. Taemin turned off the communicator and moved to his next target. The Kragans thought they were hunting scared miners, but they were wrong. They had entered the territory of something much more dangerous. He found 2 more soldiers in the engineering section, trying to restart the main power. Taemin had sabotaged the power systems, but they were smart enough to figure out how to fix them. He could not let that happen. This time he used the mining equipment. The station had small explosive charges for breaking up asteroids. Taemin placed them carefully in the walls around the engineering section, then set them off when the soldiers were in the right position. The explosion was not big enough to seriously damage the station, but it was loud and scary. The 2 Kragan soldiers were thrown to the ground by the blast. Before they could get up, Taemin hit them with a mining tool and took their weapons too. What was that explosion? Thekmor demanded over the communication system. Unknown, Veltar replied. Teams are investigating. I want answers, and I want that human found. Taemin was already moving to his next position. He had taken out 5 soldiers so far, but there were still too many left. And worse, they were getting suspicious. Soon they would realize that someone was hunting them. He decided to try a different approach. Instead of attacking them directly, he would make them think the station itself was trying to kill them. Taemin reprogrammed the maintenance robots that normally cleaned the station and did simple repairs. With some creative rewiring, he turned them into remote-controlled weapons. The robots were small, but they had cutting tools and could move through air vents where humans could not go. The next group of soldiers got a surprise when cleaning robots dropped out of the ceiling and started attacking them with spinning blade attachments. The robots were not very dangerous against armored soldiers, but they were scary and unpredictable. The soldiers wasted time and ammunition shooting at small targets that moved too fast to hit easily. While they were distracted, Taemin used industrial adhesive to seal doors and block escape routes. He turned on mining lasers in empty rooms, so the Kragans could hear dangerous sounds coming from areas they had not searched yet. He made the station's computers speak in different languages, giving false warnings about system failures and dangerous gas leaks. The Kragan soldiers began to get nervous. They were used to raids where the enemy either fought back directly or surrendered completely. This was something new, an enemy that used the environment itself as a weapon. "This station is cursed," one soldier said over the radio. "Quiet," Veltar snapped. "There is no such thing as curses. Someone is playing tricks on us." "Then where is he?" another soldier asked. "We have been searching for 2 hours and found nothing." Taman listened to their growing fear and felt satisfied. Fear was a weapon that worked better than guns sometimes. Scared enemies made mistakes, and mistakes could be used against them. But his satisfaction ended when he heard Thekmor's next order. "Enough games," the War Master said. "Bring me one of the prisoners. If the human wants to play hide and seek, we will give him a reason to stop playing." Through the security cameras, Taman watched as Kragan soldiers grabbed Kiravel from the group of captured Vegas. They dragged her to the main docking bay where Thekmor was waiting. "Human," Thekmor shouted, knowing his voice would carry through the station's communication system. "I know you can hear me. Stop your tricks and surrender, or this female dies." Kiravel looked scared, but tried to stay brave. She was thinking about her cubs hidden somewhere in the station. She did not want to die, but she would not tell the Kragans where to find Nyx and Zora. Taman felt something cold and angry growing in his chest. These monsters were threatening to kill someone he cared about, someone who had trusted him to protect her children. "You have 1 minute to show yourself," Thekmor continued, "or I start killing prisoners one by one until you do." The War Master pulled out a weapon and pointed it at Kiravel's head. His finger was on the trigger, ready to fire. Taman stared at the security screen, his mind racing. If he surrendered, the Kragans would capture him and probably kill him slowly for causing them so much trouble. But they would also keep searching until they found the cubs. If he kept hiding, Kiravel would die, and they might start killing other Vegas too. There was a third option, but it was dangerous. Instead of surrendering or hiding, he could attack directly. Use everything he had learned about the station and everything he had taken from the soldiers. It would probably get him killed, but it might save the Vegas. As he thought about what to do, Taman remembered something his grandfather had told him long ago. A good man protects his family. A great man protects everyone's family. Kiravel was not human, but she was family. The cubs hiding in the dark were family. All the Vegas on this station were family now. Taman picked up the Kragan weapons he had collected and checked to make sure they were ready to fire. Then he activated his communicator and sent a message to the Kragan ships. "This is Taman Park," he said calmly. "You want to know what a human looks like when he stops playing games? You are about to find out." The message from Taman reached Kragan ships and spread beyond them. Unknown to him, his emergency communicator was still active, broadcasting everything that happened on the mining station. His cousin, Yulha Kim, received the signal at her communications post and immediately shared it with other human ships in the area. Within hours, the story was spreading through the galaxy's communication networks. A single human engineer was fighting Kragan slavers to protect alien cubs. News agencies picked up the story. Military commanders stopped their other work to watch. Even races that barely knew what humans were began paying attention to the small mining station called Harmony's Edge. Ambassador Sangwoo Park was Taman's younger brother. He worked at a human diplomatic station 3 systems away. When he heard his brother's name in the emergency broadcast, he felt his heart stop. "Sir," his aide said quietly, "we are getting requests from dozens of alien governments. They want to know what we are going to do about the situation." Sangwoo looked at the tactical display showing the mining station. Human rescue ships were still hours away, too far to help. But the whole galaxy was watching now, waiting to see what humans did when their people were in danger. "Send a message to Fleet Admiral Mijin Seo," Sangwoo said. "Tell her we need every available ship moving toward Harmony's Edge immediately." "Sir, even our fastest ships cannot get there in time to help with the current fight." "I know," Sangwoo said, "but my brother is not just fighting for his life. He is showing the galaxy what humans are willing to do for others. We need to show them we stand behind that." On the mining station, Taman's direct challenge had changed everything. War Master Thekmore was angry that a single human dared to threaten him, but he was also curious. Humans were supposed to be weak compared to Kragan warriors. Find him and bring him to me alive, Thekmore ordered his soldiers. I want to see what makes this human think he can fight Kragans. But finding Taemin was harder than the Kragans expected. He had spent 3 years learning every part of the station. He moved through maintenance tunnels and air vents like he was part of the station itself. When soldiers came looking for him in one area, he was already somewhere else, setting up his next trap. The Kragans started taking heavy losses. Taemin had rigged mining explosives in the walls and floors. When soldiers walked into certain rooms, the explosives went off. He had reprogrammed the station's gravity system so that some areas suddenly had no gravity, leaving soldiers floating helplessly while he attacked them. Most frightening of all, he had started using psychological warfare. He would speak to the soldiers over the station's communication system, telling them exactly how he was going to hunt them down. His voice was calm and cold, like he was talking about fixing a machine instead of killing people. Attention, Kragan. Soldiers in Section 12. Taemin's voice echoed through the halls. You are in a dead end with no escape routes. I have sealed the doors behind you and filled the air system with sleeping gas. You have about 3 minutes before you fall, unconscious. I suggest you use that time to think about what you have done to innocent people. The soldiers in Section 12 tried to break down the sealed doors, but Taemin had used industrial welding equipment to seal them shut. One by one, they collapsed as the gas took effect. When they woke up hours later, they found themselves locked in a storage room with no weapons or communication devices. News reports across the galaxy began showing footage from the station's security cameras. Alien species that had never heard of humans before watched in amazement as one human systematically defeated professional Kragan soldiers using nothing but intelligence and determination. Dr. Ha Newell Lee was a human xenobiologist studying alien cultures. When she saw the reports, she was asked by news agencies to explain what they were seeing. Most species in the galaxy evolved on planets where survival was difficult but predictable, she explained to a mixed audience of alien reporters. Humans evolved on a planet where almost everything was trying to kill them. We learned to be creative with our violence. We learned to use tools, environment, and psychology as weapons. What you are seeing is not unusual human behavior. It is what humans do when something they love is threatened. The reports began to focus on why Taemin was fighting so hard. The security footage showed him with the Vegan cubs, teaching them about human culture and protecting them like they were his own children. Alien viewers saw that he was not fighting for money or glory or revenge. He was fighting because he loved the people he was protecting. This was something new in the galaxy's experience. Most warrior races fought for honor or territory or resources. Even the peaceful races usually only defended their own species. But here was a human risking his life to protect aliens who were not even related to him. On the station, the fighting continued. Taemin had reduced the Kragan force from 15 soldiers to only 8, plus War Master Thekmore and Scout Captain Veltar. But his luck was running out. The remaining soldiers were the smartest and most experienced ones. They had figured out some of his tricks and were being more careful. Worse, Thekmore was getting frustrated. The War Master had started threatening to kill more prisoners if Taemin did not surrender. So far, he had not followed through. But Taemin knew that would not last forever. The breakthrough came when Taemin realized he could access the station's mining laser. It was designed to cut through asteroids and had enough power to slice through spaceship armor. The laser was normally controlled from the main engineering station, but Taemin had rewired the controls to work from a hidden position. He waited until the remaining Kragan soldiers were gathered in the main docking bay with their prisoners. Then he aimed the mining laser at their ships and fired. The laser cut through the first Kragan ship like it was made of paper. The ship's hull split open and air rushed out into space. Emergency systems activated, but the damage was too severe. The ship was completely disabled. What is happening? Thekmore shouted as alarms went off all around him. The second ship tried to move away from the station, but the mining laser followed it. Another precise cut disabled the ship's engines. It could not escape now. Impossible, Veltar said. No, Mining laser should have that much range. But Taemin had modified the laser system, increasing its power and improving its targeting. It was dangerous. The laser might overload and explode, but it was working. The third ship managed to get behind cover, but Taemin was patient. He waited until it moved to a better position, then disabled it too. Now all the Kragan ships were trapped. They could not leave the system, and they could not call for help, because Taemin had also destroyed their long-range communication arrays across the galaxy. Alien governments watched the tactical displays showing disabled Kragan ships floating helplessly near a small mining station. Military analysts could not believe what they were seeing. One human with mining equipment had defeated a professional Kragan raiding fleet. Fleet Admiral Mi-Jin Seo was commanding the human rescue force that was still racing toward the station. She had been in the military for 20 years and had never seen anything like this. "Admiral," her communications officer said, "we are getting messages from over 50 alien governments. They want to know if all humans fight like this." Mi-Jin looked at the tactical display showing the battle. "Tell them that Taemin Park is not unusual. He is just a human protecting his family. And yes, we all fight like this when we need to." On the mining station, War Master Thekmor was beginning to understand that he had made a terrible mistake. This was not supposed to be a real battle. It was supposed to be a simple raid against weak civilians, but somehow one human had turned it into a military disaster. "Human!" Thekmor shouted over the station's communication system. "You have disabled our ships, but we still have your precious aliens as hostages. Surrender now or I start killing them." Taemin's voice came back over the speakers, still calm and cold. "You have threatened my family for the last time. I gave you a chance to leave peacefully. You chose violence instead. Now you get to see what human violence really looks like." The lights on the station went out completely. Emergency power failed. Even the gravity system stopped working. The station became a dark, weightless maze where only one person knew how to move effectively. War Master Thekmor floated in the darkness, trying to use his helmet light to see his surroundings. He could hear his soldiers calling for orders, but their voices sounded scared now instead of confident. Somewhere in the darkness, a human was hunting them. And for the first time in his military career, Thekmor began to feel afraid. In the darkness of the station, War Master Thekmor made his final mistake. Frustrated by hours of humiliation, he grabbed Kiravel and put his weapon to her head. "Enough games, human," he shouted into the darkness. "Show yourself or I kill this female." When Taemin did not answer immediately, Thekmor pulled the trigger. The sound of the weapon firing echoed through the station. Kiravel's body went limp and floated away in the zero gravity. The other Vegan prisoners cried out in horror and grief. Their friend was dead, killed for no reason except to make a point. Taemin heard it all through the security system. He saw Kiravel die on the camera screens. He watched her body drift away while her friends wept for her. Something broke inside him. For 6 hours, he disappeared completely. The security cameras could not find him. His voice stopped coming over the communication system. Even his breathing stopped showing up on the station's life support monitors. The Kragan soldiers thought they had finally broken him, or maybe even killed him somehow. War Master Thekmor used those 6 hours to try to regain control. He ordered his remaining soldiers to search every part of the station. He had them check the disabled ships to see if any could be repaired. He even tried to contact other Kragan fleets for help, but the communication systems were still destroyed. "Where is the human?" Veltar asked. They were floating in what used to be the command center using portable lights to see. "Dead, hiding, or planning something," Thekmor said. "It does not matter. We still have hostages. Even if he killed some of my soldiers, we can still salvage this mission." But Thekmor was wrong. Taemin was not dead or hiding. He was working. In the deepest part of the station where the main power systems were located, Taemin had spent 6 hours modifying the mining laser array. The laser was already powerful enough to cut through spaceship armor, but he wanted more. Much more. Using his engineering knowledge and parts from the damaged systems, he increased the laser's power to dangerous levels. The modifications would probably destroy the laser after one use, but Timon did not care about that anymore. He only cared about making sure the Kragans paid for what they had done. He also prepared other surprises. The station had emergency pods for evacuating people if something went wrong. Timon programmed the pods to automatically launch toward the nearest human ship when activated. Then he went to the maintenance section where the Cubs were hiding. "Timon," Nix whispered when he opened the sealed door. "We heard loud sounds. What is happening?" The Cubs looked scared and hungry. They had been hiding in the dark room for almost a full day. Zora was crying quietly, and some of the younger Cubs were shaking with fear. "Bad people came to the station," Timon said gently. "But I am going to send you somewhere safe now." He led the Cubs to the emergency pods. It took some time because they were scared and did not want to get into the small spacecraft, but Timon was patient with them just like always. "Where are we going?" Zora asked as he helped her into a pod. "To human ships," Timon said. "My people will take care of you until this is over." "What about Mother?" Nix asked. Timon felt pain in his chest, but he kept his voice steady. "Your mother wants you to be safe. That is the most important thing to her." He activated the pods and watched them launch toward the human fleet that was still approaching the system. The Cubs would be safe now, no matter what happened next. That was all that mattered. Then Timon went back to the modified mining laser and began his final preparations. When he reappeared on the communication system, his voice sounded different. It was still calm, but there was something underneath it that made even the experienced Kragan soldiers feel cold. "War Master Thekmor," Timon said, "you killed someone I cared about. You threatened children who trusted me to protect them. You came to a peaceful place and brought violence and death. Human, you cannot—" Thekmor began. "I am not finished talking," Timon interrupted, and something in his voice made the War Master stop. "You wanted to know what humans are like. When we stop playing games, you are about to learn." The lights came back on throughout the station. The gravity systems reactivated, but instead of returning to normal, everything was set to maximum intensity. The lights were blindingly bright. The gravity was 3 times stronger than normal, making it hard for the Kragans to move in their heavy armor. "You think you are warriors," Timon continued. "You think you are predators, but you are just bullies who pick on people who cannot fight back. Let me show you what a real predator looks like." Timon had spent the dark hours setting up his final trap. Every system on the Bull station was now under his control and modified to be as dangerous as possible. He had turned the entire station into a weapon. The first thing he did was flood certain areas with industrial chemicals that ate through Kragan armor. Soldiers who tried to move through those areas found their protective gear dissolving, leaving them vulnerable. Then he activated mining charges placed throughout the station structure. Not enough to destroy the station completely, but enough to change the layout. Walls collapsed and floors opened up, creating new paths and blocking old ones. The Kragans found themselves trapped in a maze that kept changing around them. "This is impossible," Beltar shouted as he tried to lead his soldiers through corridors that had not existed an hour ago. "Nothing is impossible if you understand the systems," Timon replied through the speakers. "I have had 3 years to learn every bolt and wire in this station. You have had 1 day. That was your first mistake." One by one, the remaining Kragan soldiers fell to Timon's traps. Some were caught in areas where he had removed all the air. Others were crushed when he activated the mining equipment they were standing near. A few tried to surrender, but Timon was no longer accepting surrender. "Your second mistake," he continued as another soldier disappeared into a pit that had opened under his feet, "was thinking that because Vegas are peaceful, they do not deserve to be protected. Every species deserves to live in peace. When you threaten that peace, you become the enemy of anyone who believes in protecting the innocent." Finally, only War Master Thekmor remained. He was trapped in the main docking bay, surrounded by the bodies of his soldiers and the Vegas he had killed. His armor was damaged, his weapons were gone, and he was alone. Timon appeared in the doorway, walking slowly toward him. The human looked different now. His eyes were cold and empty. His movements were precise and deadly. This was not the kind engineer who had told stories to alien cubs. This was something else entirely. Your third mistake, Taman said as he approached the War Master, was killing Kiravel in front of me. She was a good person who never hurt anyone. Her cubs loved her. I promised to protect her, and you murdered her to make a point. Thekmore tried to speak, but no words came out. He had fought in hundreds of battles and conquered dozens of worlds, but he had never faced anything like the human standing in front of him. You wanted to show the galaxy that Kragans are strong and Vegas are weak, Taman continued. Instead, you showed them something else. You showed them what happens when someone threatens a human's family. Taman activated the modified mining laser one final time. But instead of aiming it at the Kragan ships, he aimed it at the station itself. The laser cut through the docking bay walls, opening them to space. Air rushed out, pulling everything toward the hole. War Master Thekmore was sucked toward the opening, but Taman grabbed him and held him back. For a moment, the Kragan thought the human was saving him. Then Taman spoke into his communicator, broadcasting to every ship in the system and every news network, monitoring the situation. This is Taman Park. I want the galaxy to understand something about humans. We are not the strongest species. We are not the smartest. We are not the most advanced. But when you threaten innocent people, when you hurt children, when you kill someone we love, we become something else entirely. We become your worst nightmare. He looked directly at War Master Thekmore. This is what human rage looks like. Then he let go. The War Master was pulled out into space, his screams lost in the vacuum. Taman watched him disappear into the darkness, then sealed the breach and restored normal air pressure to the docking bay. By the time the human rescue fleet arrived, it was over. They found Taman sitting quietly in the command center, looking at pictures of the Vegas who had died. The Kragan ships were disabled but intact, their crews either dead or unconscious. The Vegas who had survived were shaken but unharmed. Fleet Admiral Mijin Seo came aboard personally to debrief Taman. She expected to find a traumatized civilian who had gotten lucky against professional soldiers. Instead, she found someone who had systematically destroyed an entire Kragan raiding fleet, using nothing but intelligence, determination, and access to industrial equipment. How did you do all this? She asked. They threatened my family, Taman said simply, so I protected them. The story spread across the galaxy within hours. Every species heard about the human engineer who had fought Kragan slavers to protect alien cubs. They heard about his tactical genius, his psychological warfare, and his final, terrible revenge against those who had killed someone he loved. But more importantly, they heard about why he had fought. Not for glory or conquest, but for love. Not to prove human superiority, but to protect the innocent. The alarm woke Taman from deep sleep. Red lights flashed in his small room, and a voice spoke over the station's speakers. It was Docthon, and he sounded scared. All workers come to emergency stations. Unknown ships approaching. This is not a drill. Taman jumped out of bed and put on his work clothes quickly. His hands moved fast, but his mind was already thinking about what to do. The defense systems he had checked yesterday were not strong enough to fight real raiders. If bad, ships were coming. The Vegas would need help. He ran through the station's halls toward the command center. Other workers were running too, but they looked confused and frightened. Vegas did not have much practice with emergencies like this. Their species had not fought wars in hundreds of years. The command center was full of worried voices. Vegas were talking over each other, their ears moving as they spoke. Docthon stood in the middle, trying to stay calm, but Taman could see fear in his big eyes. What do we know? Taman asked. 5 ships, Docthon said. They are big and they have weapons. Our long-range scans show they are Kragan design. Taman felt cold. Kragans were one of the worst races in the galaxy. They were not just raiders who stole cargo. They were slavers who took people to sell in illegal markets. Kragans were tall and strong with thick skin like armor and sharp teeth. They loved fighting and believed that weak species deserved to be slaves. How long until they get here? Taman asked. 2 hours, a Vegas worker said from the scanner station. Maybe less if they speed up. We need to send a distress call, Taman said. Human ships, vegan defense forces, anyone who can help. Already. Done. Docton said. But the nearest help is 6 hours away. Maybe 8. Taemin looked at the scan results on the main screen. The Kragan ships were much bigger than mining vessels. They had military weapons and thick armor. Even with help coming, the station might not survive long enough. Where are the cubs? Taemin asked suddenly. In the education center with the other young ones, Docton said. Kiravel is with them. Taemin nodded. At least they were together. But the education center was near the main docking bay. If Kragans boarded the station, that would be one of the first places they would go. We need to move the cubs somewhere safer, Taemin said. Where? Docton asked. The station is not big. There are not many places to hide. Taemin thought. Fast. He knew the station better than most people because he had fixed things in every part of it. There was a maintenance section in the lower levels that had thick walls and its own air supply. It was meant for emergency repairs, but it could hide people too. Level 7, Maintenance Section C, Taemin said. It has independent life support and the walls are reinforced. If we seal it from the inside, it would be hard for anyone to find. Good idea, Docton said. But what about the rest of us? Before Taemin could answer, the scanner made a loud beeping sound. The Vegas worker at the scanner station looked scared. They are moving faster now, he said. 1 hour until they arrive. Taemin felt time running out. 1 hour was not enough to prepare a real defense, but it might be enough to protect the most important things. The cubs had to survive, even if the adults did not. I will take the young ones to the hiding place, Taemin said. The rest of you should destroy important data and prepare to surrender. Surrender? Several Vegas spoke at the same time. They sounded surprised. Kragans kill people who fight back, Taemin explained. If you surrender, they might just take the station and leave you alive, but they cannot know about the cubs. Young ones are what they want most for the slave markets. The Vegas looked at each other with sad eyes. They understood. Their peaceful way of life had not prepared them for this, but they were not stupid. They knew what happened to species that Kragans captured. Taemin ran to the education center. It was a large room, with soft furniture and learning materials. Normally it was full of laughter and questions, but now the cubs sat quietly while Kiravel tried to keep them calm. There were 8 cubs total, including Nyx and Zora. Taemin, Nyx called when he saw the human. Are the bad ships really coming? Yes, Taemin said. He did not want to lie to them. But I have a plan to keep you safe. You need to come with me right now. What about Mother? Zora asked. She was holding Kiravel's hand tightly. Kiravel knelt down so she could look at her cubs directly. I have to stay and help the other adults, but Taemin will take care of you. He is very smart and very brave. But we want to stay with you, Nyx said. I know, Kiravel said. Her voice was gentle but firm. But sometimes we have to do things we do not want to do. This is one of those times. Taemin gathered the cubs and led them through the station. They had to take a long route to avoid the main corridors where other workers were preparing for the Kragans. The cubs were scared, but they trusted Taemin. He had always been kind to them. The maintenance section was small and dark. It had tools and spare parts for fixing the station, but no windows or comfortable furniture. Taemin showed the cubs where the food and water supplies were stored. You have to stay here until I come back, he said. Do not make noise. Do not open the door for anyone except me. Do you understand? The cubs nodded, their big eyes reflecting the dim lights. They were trying to be brave, but Taemin could see they were frightened. Will you be okay? Zora asked quietly. I will be fine, Taemin said. He hoped it was true. I have to help the other adults now. Remember, no noise and do not open the door. He sealed the maintenance section from the outside and made sure the controls looked broken. Then he ran back toward the command center. On the way, he stopped at his room to get something important. Hidden under his bed was a small metal box. Inside were things from Earth that he had brought to remind him of home. Photos of his family, a small knife his grandfather had given him, and something else, an emergency communicator that could send messages to human military forces. Taman had never thought he would need to use it, but as he activated the device and started recording a message, he realized this might be his last chance to tell his family what had happened. "This is Taman Park on Harmony's Edge mining station," he said to the recorder. "We are under attack by Craig enslavers. The Vegas are good people. They do not deserve this. If anyone gets this message, please remember that they tried to be peaceful, and tell my family that I tried to protect the innocent ones." He sent the message toward human space, knowing it might take hours or days to reach anyone. Then he put the communicator away and went back to the command center. The scanner showed that the Kragan ships were very close now. Soon they would be close enough to use their weapons. The Vegas workers stood together holding hands and trying to comfort each other. They knew they might die, but they were facing it with dignity. "Any word from the rescue ships?" Taman asked. "Still too far away," Dukthan said. On the main screen they could see the Kragan ships now. They were dark and covered with weapons. They looked like they were made for war, and nothing else. The lead ship was bigger than the others, with extra armor and bigger guns. "Incoming message," the communications worker said. A new face appeared on the screen. It was a Kragan warrior with scars on his face and metal teeth. His eyes were cold and cruel. This was War Master Thekmor, commander of the Kragan fleet. "Attention mining station," Thekmor said. His voice was deep and threatening. "You will surrender immediately. Anyone who resists will be killed. We are coming aboard to collect specimens for the slave markets. Do not make this harder than it needs to be." The message ended. The Vegas looked at each other, knowing what they had to do. They were peaceful people, but they were not cowards. They would surrender to save as many lives as possible. But Taman was not thinking about surrender. He was thinking about 8 small cubs hidden in a dark room, trusting him to keep them safe. He was thinking about Nyx asking questions about the drill, about Zora quietly supporting her brother, about all the times they had called his name and run to him with excitement. The Kragans thought they were just raiding another weak station. They thought the only resistance would come from some scared miners with basic tools. They were about to learn they had made a terrible mistake.